upon further review, I really didn't like the shots Jayson Tatum took against the Houston Rockets. That and a couple of other notes from the game. And are the Celtics underachieving this year, or did they overachieve last year? We'll talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamp. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Plus like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Prime time, dapping D White on the sideline. Raining Jace, how it started, raising business, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I got you covered every day, Monday through Friday, with a free podcast. It drops directly to your device when you subscribe. You have to subscribe to get this show on your favorite podcasting app, whichever one it is. It exists there. It's also on YouTube. Watch the show there, and you can get into the comment section, have some fun there, or like a lot of the Rockets fans who came in telling me to cope and cry more and all that other stuff, all the things the kids say, whatever. That's fine. Welcome all of the fans of the eventual losers, Houston Rockets. By the way, Locked On Rockets is really talking a lot of smack. They're catching up to us in subscribers. We just absolutely cannot let Locked On Rockets pass Locked On Celtics in subscribers. How is that possible? So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube page, get on that, please. We cannot let this injustice stand. I'm John Karalis. If you're new to the show, I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal, and I've been covering the Celtics for about 20 years. So that's my written work. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Go to download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase of tickets. Today, we're joined by Tom Westerholm. Tom, who has muted himself and is, there you go, Tom Westerholm. Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm huffing copium, just like
huffing copium. Just like, you're crying more and coping.
Oh God, I just can't stop.
Can't stop crying more.
I literally cannot stop weeping.
Yeah. Yep. And coping
and coping and huffing copium.
It's I don't know. I think that was just Reddit. We just did an impression of Reddit. The question of underachieving
you're gonna do a Reddit. You gotta like game thread Reddit is like just one of the most like if you think that Twitter, X, Blue Sky, whatever is negative.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. It is funny. Everybody's mad. You know, it's just everybody out there is mad. You're either mad about stuff that's happening or you're mad at the people who are mad at the stuff that's happening. Yes. Everybody's mad. Nobody's happy. If you're happy, it's because you're mad at the other people, whatever it is.
Right. If you're happy that other people are mad.
Yes. Which makes you mad. So I think that seeps into a lot of the reaction.
I feel like we cracked some codes right there.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, okay. So looking back, I got all my trusty notes here on my, post-game watch. And the biggest thing I'm looking at is Jayson Tatum, who scoreless in the first half. And I'm watching that first quarter and actually the first half, I think to myself, man, Tatum, I thought he was moving the ball well. I didn't think he had one possession. And actually that was in the second half where it was like really, really dribble. That ended up being an alley-oop to Luke Kornet.
Yeah.
So I thought his game was generally really good, except for the shots that he took. My big thing when I look at that game, I am desperate for Jayson Tatum to stop searching for his three-point shot, to play his normal game. If it is driving, then drive. There's two plays that come to mind. One is in the first half, one is in the second half. In the first half, he ran a pick and pop where he had an easy dribble into the middle of the lane where he could have collapsed the defense and kicked, or he could have at least, and I know that you don't want to dribble into a two, but he took a kind of lightly contested three. And sometimes when you're looking to get going, a couple dribbles into a free throw line jumper is just a nice little, let me just boom, boom, there it is. Take that little shot. Just leave that little gooseneck up, watch it go through the net, go back, and then go back, and then you can get into your offense. That's number one. Number two, on a fast break, I think he completely botched a read because he was hunting for a three. It was in the third quarter. It was early in the third quarter. He was on the left wing. He had a lane to the basket. And I know that guys typically flare out to three to give space, but when there is a clear lane to the basket, you take it because layups are still the number one priority. And he just didn't even look at the bat. He didn't even look at that lane. It was an easy either alley-oop or a pass. Holiday hits him over the top. That would have been an easy layup, potentially a foul. It's a play that he actually made at the 5:35 mark of the third quarter where he kept going. He got the foul. He got the layup. And people were like, okay, here we go. Here, that could have happened at the 10:40 mark of the third quarter. But Tatum, and I'll stop talking in a second here, but people know, if you're a regular listener, I don't mind the 3-pointers. I understand the 3-pointers. Take the 53 pointers. I don't care. But don't force it.
Yeah.
Don't force it. And Tatum, because he's been cold from three, we've seen this from him before. He is hunting. And I think Scally even said it a couple of times. Tatum is going for the pick and pop and trying to get going from three.
Yeah.
And that's not what gets Tatum going. It's getting to the rim. It's getting the other shots to fall. And then the 3-pointers start to fall from him. I want him to get back to that so bad.
Honestly, I think when he makes a couple of threes, it's almost reversed, right? Because then it's like, if he makes a couple of threes, it feels like that's almost like empowering to just keep shooting threes and not bother getting to the basket. I think that can sometimes be worse for him than if he was just attacking, from the jump. Like or if he, missed a couple of threes, because sometimes when he misses a couple of threes, then he starts to get going to the hoop. I think I'm right there with you. And I think there's that play right at the end of the game, right, where he took Amen Thompson, just drove him right to the basket.
Yeah.
Just bodied him right out of the way. And it's like, I mean, Amen Thompson, best, second best, third best, whatever. Second best probably at worst defender, perimeter defender on the Rockets. Like, just went right through him. And like, that's who you are. Like, you're that guy at Tatum. Like, you're that good that you have the other teams. One of their best wing stoppers is there's this freak of nature athlete is on you. And when you get your shoulder into him, it does not matter how athletic he is. It doesn't matter how bouncy he is. It doesn't matter. You just go right up. You got that easy layup. So I think, and I'm not saying that he can do that every single time down, but I am saying I think that, like, and also I understand that the Celtics early on, they like to try to establish some of their other guys. They like to try to, we talked a couple times ago, right, about like Jaylen loves to get going and, loves to kind of be like hey, I'm the first quarter guy. I set the tone. Porzingis has been great in the first quarter. Like, these are guys who get going early. So for sure there's other offense around, but like, if you're Tatum and you're going to be looking for shots, I don't have a huge problem with Tatum looking for shots. I am 100% on board with you. I have a problem when he's hunting the threes. If he's hunting plays around the basket, good things just generally happen when he's down there. Even if he doesn't score 100% of the time, it's just generally good things happen. And
yeah, I and again, to be clear, I believe in the Celtics offense. I believe in their process. I just, whenever somebody is forcing any particular thing, I start to think like, okay, you better be making them, right? Like Tatum and Brown both get a little leeway because the rules don't apply to them the same way they'd apply to even Derek White, Drew Holiday, those guys, because Tatum and Brown are capable of doing the thing that they do best, better than anybody. And you're like, oh my God, what a bad, okay, never mind. He made that. He made 3 of those in a row. And like, there are a couple of plays in this game where I'm like, Jaylen.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. Yep.
Yeah. Just give it up. Okay. Never mind. Never mind. Good shot,
you know
what I mean? It's like hell of a shot.
You are a professional. I am not a professional. Fair enough.
Right. I would never coach a player to do what you just did. But that's the beauty. Like,
but also I would never be in a position to coach a player of your caliber.
That's right. That's right. And, and people might push back on that, but like, go look at what Nikola Jokic is doing. And like, I can't coach that either. You know what I mean? I can't coach what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Anthony Edwards or any of these guys. Like, when you are that level of player, or LeBron, you just do things and you're like, okay, never mind. Like and even some of the bad shots, you have to live with them because they are capable of hitting bad shots. We talk about some guys being incredible bad shot makers, and like that's what makes superstars. They hit this crazy stuff. You're like, all right, never mind. Yeah, I'm good. But Tatum, just please, the 3-pointers will fall if you run your normal offense. I know you had things to say about the end of game stuff. Why don't we come back and talk about the end of game, the last 2 plays, and YouTube exclusive, a little bit of a video breakdown, which we don't usually do, but a little bit of a video breakdown of the Alperen Sengun dunk, because there's a little bit of debate here. We'll talk about that when we come back. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Going to live events is a lot of fun. And a lot of times, I've been to NFL playoff games. I've been to Patriots games where they've won to go off to the Super Bowl. Super exciting. I remember one time my brother, when he was much, much younger, they picked him up and passed him around. It was very scary, but also a lot of fun. And, I didn't have Game Time back then, but Game Time can help you experience the excitement and energy of these playoff games. They got a new feature called Game Time Picks. Makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff, so you get incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I have used Game Time Picks for a lot of stuff recently. I've gone to a couple, like a Red Sox game, Patriots game. My wife uses it for theater stuff. Very easy to browse and find deals. There's all kinds of great values around these venues. The Super Deal is an impressive feature offering the best value for the event, and the app's features like seat views before you buy, all-in pricing, and no surprise fees at checkout. They make that experience a lot more smooth and reliable. Plus, on-time ticket delivery and the lowest price guarantee can give you peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKED, LOCKED, Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go subscribe to our new daily newsletter. It's available at lockedondaily.com. Celtics, NBA, and fantasy coverage all in one place, all delivered to your inbox Monday through Friday. If you've missed a Locked On Celtics episode, being subscribed to the newsletter is great because it helps you kind of keep up with what the episodes are about, and you can decide like, oh, I actually want to hear about this. So go check it out. Subscribe at lockedondaily.com. Click on the Locked On Celtics logo, subscribe to that newsletter, and get it to your inbox. Open it up, read it. It's pretty good, if I do say so myself. All right, Tom, end of game stuff. So just more signature smooth execution down the stretch for the Celtics.
That's what this team is starting to be known for. It's just really getting it right every single time down the stretch.
Just nailing it.
Just nailing it. No, I mean, I think it was funny to me post game that Joe Mazzulla, not funny. I mean, good for him for trying to take all the blame. Like, oh, that was entirely my fault. I didn't do the subs right. That's why it was entirely my fault. I got everything wrong. That's on me. Don't blame the players. That's all me. Like, respect. And I mean, look, I think that on that last play, right, that sub seems to throw things off. Like, people seem to not totally be sure what they were supposed to be doing on the very last play. And that led to Jaylen kind of stumbling around trying to guard Amen. Like, for sure. Probably Joe had something to do with that. Joe probably was not responsible for guarding Sengun on the second to last play. I know that Joe has inserted himself as a defender into the play before in the NBA.
He has tried, yes.
He has tried. I don't think that was probably his responsibility. I mean, you and I talked before the pod pretty extensively, and I think came up with some answers for that Sengun play. I don't know if we want to hop into
let's do that, because I want to for the people who are watching, here's the play. And for the people at home, I'm going to try to we don't do this much, but for the people who are listening, you can picture the play here. All right. Jaylen Brown is covering Fred VanVleet, who is inbounding.
Yep.
The inbounder. Now it's Kristaps Porzingis on Amen Thompson and Kornet on Şengün. So right away, I'm thinking about this. I'm like, well, if Porzingis is on Amen Thompson, that means they're going to switch this. It has to be that they're going to switch this. And I will say that later on the next play, when Porzingis steps onto the floor when he's not supposed to, it tells me that maybe Kristaps isn't fully there mentally. Like he's maybe not fully engaged here, because if we look at this moving forward, Porzingis is up with Thompson. Thompson crosses that 3-point line out towards half court, and Jaylen goes with him to deny, but so does Kristaps Porzingis. That's when Şengün gives a little tug on the jersey, which didn't make it to the last minute report. Not a big deal. Breaks free of Luke Kornet and gets in for the dunk. My contention, Tom Westerholm, is that Porzingis screwed this up. Luke Kornet is number one. Yes. Luke Kornet screwed this up.
Yes.
Okay. However, my contention is that when Kristaps Porzingis, like at the point where Amen Thompson crosses the 3-point line and Jaylen goes out to the switch, Porzingis is supposed to stop and become kind of like the center fielder and prevent any sort of pass that goes into the paint. And he keeps going, and wouldn't you know it, where does the pass go? But right where Porzingis was, and that's where I think, yes, Luke really screwed up, but I think Porzingis also screwed up by not staying home there. So it's indicative to me of, okay, Luke, what were you doing? But also, Kristaps, where's your head? What are you doing? Are you switching or not switching? The communication has to be there. And that's where I think Joe might be like, hey, no, that's on me. He's going to fall on the sword. But
I'm guessing he's not going to fall on the sword when it gets to film.
Yeah. No. But guarantee you, two guys are not supposed to go with him on town. There's no reason to have two guys go with him, right? You might double him after he gets the ball, but not before, because there's no reason for it. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, and I think to your point, right, it's like if Kristaps is going to be on the floor, you're not going to have him out past the 3-point line like that, especially not that far past the 3-point line. And if you watch the play, as Amen Thompson is coming out to get the ball, Jaylen is looking back over his shoulder. It looks like the Celtics kind of have an idea of what's going to be happening. Jaylen is looking back and appears to kind of be like, okay, here he comes, and he's in my zone now. So now I'm going to go out and be out there. Like, I think that there's clearly something wrong that happened there too. And like, look, I mean, that might have been Kristaps Porzingis's head not entirely in it. Also, like, if Luke Kornet got messed up by that, by kind of like watching that and being like, that doesn't look quite right, and then Şengün slipped the basket, then Kornet's head wasn't in quite the right place either, right? Like, so, which again, we come back to, this was both guys.
Yep. So here's, this is going to be my potential. And I'm going to do this again here. I'm going to make an excuse for Luke Kornet, who again screwed up on this one,
or at very least got beat. Right? Like, it's like
he got beat.
Screwing up is different, I think, than getting beat. Sometimes,
he probably got a little too high there.
Yeah,
and put himself in a position to get burned. But why would he be that high? To me, I think he's expecting, because again, look, time score situation. It's a tie game. Any basket puts you ahead. I think he's looking at a potential screen. He's up there waiting for Şengün to go screen for Thompson. That's what it looks like to me. And he gets a little overzealous and gets out of position and gets burned. I think I know Luke didn't say anything like that after the game, but I think you can easily say he's not expecting Şengün to get the ball there or to break for the ball. Thompson is having the best game of his life. He's probably expecting a screen, a curl, and especially when you look over and you're like, wow, there's Porzingis, there's Jaylen Brown. If that screen happens, I have to switch because you expect Porzingis to drop. So I feel like there's Kornet was looking for something, maybe got too distracted looking for something. To your point, like maybe he's like, oh, wow, I didn't expect Porzingis to be up there. Why is he up there? Maybe they see something that I don't see and he's up so bottom line is communication, garbage. Communication, hot garbage there. And this is part of the problem for the Celtics in these situations.
Also slightly unfortunate that Drew Holiday he looked like he was supposed to be just denying basically Jalen Green, but too unfortunate that he wasn't looking, because if he had been, he could have potentially dropped down and that would have left Green open, but Porzingis was kind of stumbling in a position where he could have then closed out. Lots of things could have happened. To your point, the whole thing broke down on that play. I think like you said, I think you put it well. Like the biggest issue is that Kornet either screwed up or got beat, however you want to end up putting that. That was the biggest issue. That's what created everything. But lots of things fell apart on that play to facilitate that loss.
A lot of things are falling apart for the Celtics in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
And it raises the question of what you see on the board here on the YouTube page. Are they underachieving this year, or did they overachieve last year? And I think this loss is a great one to bounce off of for this, because this is the type of game that I can look at this and be like, of course, like a losing this game, when you look at the circumstances, no White, no Horford, no Hauser, first game back from a long road trip. Houston Rockets are on fire. They're the second seed in the West. They just beat the Cavs twice. So beating top teams, like they're really good. All of this, like you can look at all that and be like, yeah, this might be a loss. So that's why I was like not mad at that loss necessarily.
That's not true. You were huffing copium.
That's right. That's true. I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think I'm a big believer in setting expectations. And the Celtics set expectations last year of they actually still won these kinds of games last year. Let's take a second here. We'll come back. We'll try to answer this question. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA Game Night is 7 days a week. Locked On NBA is 5 days a week in the middle of the day. So you got all the night's games covered on Locked On Game Night. And then Locked On NBA gets all the big stories, the biggest topics, and covers them every Monday through Friday. Okay, so last year, the Celtics, I think, surprised us by like all of these games. Like, okay, they had played down to the competition in the past, and last year they didn't. And they had taken like some of these games, you're like, yeah, first game back from long road trip, that's going to be a tough one. And it had been a tough one, and last year it wasn't.
Yeah.
And when I say overachieve last year, I'm not talking about they won a championship. Obviously, that's everybody, you can call it overachieving, but the Celtics were 64-win team.
Yeah, winning a championship is kind of by definition overachieving. It's
so
freaking hard to do.
It's hard to do. But the Celtics, look, I was surprised that they were a 64-win team. I was surprised at how dominant they were. The numbers make it look like, and that's why I think by the end of the season, people were like, wait a second, is this one of the most dominant teams in history? Because that's not what they were expected to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could probably look back and be like, they're at least 5, 6, 7 wins. You're like, oh, I don't know. This year, those are losses. And that's why this year they're trending down, that they're maybe not a 60-win team, or maybe they're a 58-win team, which is also, by the way, really good, right? And
Correct.
none of this is an indictment on their chances of winning a championship.
Correct.
At the same time, we are used to, the expectation has been set of, wow, this team with this roster with Porzingis and Holiday and all that stuff did this. Was last year them overachieving and this year is just back to normal, or was last year setting the baseline and this is a step backwards?
Yeah, I think it also can be like a little bit of both, right? Where
Sure.
it's like,
Yeah.
if last year you talk about like, okay, on the one hand, overachieving, it feels a little unfair to call some of the stuff, especially that like Tatum was doing, overachieving, because the laser like focus that he and Jaylen and that these guys had of doing the right thing every single time, personal stats out the window, don't care, do not care. We are here to win this title, to get this off our backs, we are, to achieve this thing that we've been trying to achieve. That was so clearly everything for them the whole year. And like that, I think there's like a level of overachievement in terms of like, it's hard to keep that laser level of focus, but also like, you just kind of achieved your potential, and that's pretty cool. Like, to anybody who can like really achieve your entire potential,
Yeah.
that's sick. Like, congratulations. But also, you look at things like Drew Holiday shooting 60% from the corner for threes. That is overachieving. Like,
Yeah.
that's a little high. Like,
A little much.
and I will say that's a lot of those numbers were created by the laser-like focus. So that's why I don't want to say like they were way over the top. Like, no, I mean, they overachieved a little bit because they were doing literally everything right.
Yeah.
99.99% of the time. Like if they were doing everything right 99.99% of the time this year, they might not get totally the same results, because Drew Holiday might not shoot 60% from the corners again,
Mhm.
but they would be getting better results than they are currently getting, which is why I think you can safely say that they are underachieving a little bit. Like, right? Like, I think if you put it in terms of like they overachieved a little bit last year, partly because they were so good, and they're underachieving this year a little bit, partly because that you can't keep that level of focus for 2 straight seasons. I think it can kind of hit both sides of the scale.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of quotes that from this last road trip that I don't remember exactly, but it's Porzingis saying, "We can't trick ourselves into thinking it's a
Yeah.
playoff intensity
Yeah.
every night."
Yeah. That was an
And
interesting quote.
yeah, and just
It's like, well, you
Jaylen.
did last year, man. Like,
Well, right, and that's the whole thing. Like, and Jaylen, and it's not just Jaylen, but Jaylen has said it a few times. Like, we know what it takes to win around here, and that to me tells me, well, we're not doing what it takes to win, but we know what it takes to win around here. And that's part of the underachieving. And part, like,
yeah.
those two quotes tell me you're not exactly giving it 100%. You're not exactly coming through. And look, Scal mentioned it in the broadcast. The Rockets might have been the hardest playing team the Celtics have faced this year. And that's saying a lot, like, because the Celtics aren't treating these games like they're playoff games. Like, and frankly, everybody who's listening, everybody who's at these games, you live and die by these games. And the Celtics are, fans treat every game like it's its own thing, right? You're supposed to do everything you can to win it. Losing the game is the worst thing that could happen. And I keep telling, like, this is a constant kind of message from me. NBA teams treat the season like one book, one story, and each game is a chapter in that story. Fans treat each game like it's its own book, beginning, middle, and end, and that's it, with no regard for the next book. And that's not the accurate way to do it, because you got to think about it the way teams think about it, not the way you normally think about it. And I think that's why, like, I look at things like that, and that's why my reactions are differently. That's why, you can call it huffing copium if you want, but I know how NBA teams look at things, and the loss, they don't want to lose, but this loss isn't what fans are saying. Like, oh, how are you going to win a championship if you're losing this? You can't like, yes, of course how are you going to win a championship if you can't figure out how to close these games? Also, the next chapter is potentially, like, you don't know what's coming next. Maybe they do figure out how to win these games, and just because they don't have it now doesn't mean they can't find it in the future. And we've seen them do it before, so I trust them to do it again. You know what I mean?
I do. I will push back slightly, though, because I do think the Jaylen quote is interesting to me, because when he talks about, like, we know what it takes, all this stuff, for sure.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he said, I mean, you were there. How many times last year did he use the phrase skipping steps?
Yeah.
Not skipping
100%.
steps.
I knew that's what you're going to say as soon as you started.
Hundreds and hundreds of times, right? He said it so much. And, like, this year, it's like, okay, like, we know what it takes. It's like, okay, but Jaylen is part of that, is part of what it took, not skipping steps. And if that's the case, like, is knowing, like, do you know how to do it with, if you're losing some of these games and you're not treating every game like the playoffs, makes sense, right? These aren't the playoffs. This is a regular season, and you are now a championship caliber team. All 100% true. You do know what it takes. Is part of what it takes not skipping steps? And are you skipping steps? I think that's the question that I kind of have for this team. And we won't know, right? Like, if this team gets to the playoffs and rolls through it again, it's like, okay, never mind. You knew exactly what you were doing this whole time. Don't listen to me. But it is it is an interesting contrast to me from last year, that, like, last year there was so much talk about, like, attention to detail, not skipping steps, like, doing everything right. We've even heard that a little bit from Tatum, right? Couple games ago, he said, like, 2023, I was more focused on trying to get back to the championship, and we lost in the conference finals. Like, I don't know. I find that that contrast to be kind of interesting between the 2 years.
It sounds like a question that a beat writer should ask next time he has an opportunity to talk to one of these guys, which is, I will try to remember to ask that specific question. But also, like, it, just to take the other side, I think you have a great point. I think it's a great point. This is also one of the steps, right? Figuring out how to get through. Like, this is the battle between human. We talked about this, Tom, over the summer. We talked about, can they find that thing that drove them last year, or will they have some complacency?
Yeah.
That was one of our big topics, and everybody's big topic over the summer. And here they are. And this is why Joe says this is the good part. This is the fun part, because Joe's looking at the engine and going, like, ooh, it's not working. Let's see if we can figure it out. He's a fixer. He wants to fix these things. Like, he would love for it to go great. Everybody wants it to go perfectly, and everybody would love to have the right attitude, the right work ethic, the right mentality, all of that stuff. But they don't.
That happened last year. They had the right mentality, the right attitude, and the right playoff path to get directly to the championship and win 5 games.
So, and now this year, they're dealing with, like, their own worst enemy. They are their own worst enemy. And this is why Joe is like, okay, let's see if we can figure this out. Because if you can figure this out, what a story. What a great story this would be. Because it's almost like a personal battle with, a demon, a thing, whatever it is that you're dealing with personally. How much do people love the stories of overcoming things? Like, I always bring up this comedian. I got to look this up and try to find it, because I don't know who the comedian is, but he started out his set by saying, like, I never drank and never did drugs, and just the complete silence. And then he's like, see, If I had come out here and said, I just got clean, everybody, woo, yeah. People love the redemption story.
Yeah.
What a great story this will be. This is why Joe was like, I love this. Because if they can figure this out, if they can turn it around and they can put this blip behind them and make it just a blip,
yeah,
then they become the team that's like, wow, they fought through the hangover. They fought through it all. They turned it around. Maybe they get back to the 1 seed and they get back to a championship. And we look back on December, January as the challenge. If I'm writing the book of the championship season again, then I'm doing the chapter of December, January swoon, the antagonist. This is the antagonist, and the Celtics are the protagonist trying to beat them. And that's where they are. And we don't know what the next chapter is going to bring. But again, personally, I trust them to do it. And I know Joe is relishing the opportunity to do it. The question is, will they do it?
Can the scrappy 32-15 defending champion Hobbits make it all the way to Mount Doom and drop that ring?
Scrappy group of, like, who knows? These little dogs. Maybe they can figure it out.
All NBA, all star. Can they do it?
Super rich, second apron, assemble team, like 7 all-stars. Can they just, a scrappy bunch, put it together?
But I agree with your point. Also, I like the book analogy, because if you think about an author writing a book and all the attention to detail that goes into every word, and then you think about a team hitting the film room after like a game, it's like there's similarities there where it's like,
yeah, absolutely.
Just these little, like, these minute details that make all the difference and can really elevate everything. It's
all right. Well, we'll leave it there. And this is going to be an ongoing conversation. Every time the Celtics win a game and look good, it's like, is this it? Is this beginning to turn around? And then they stumble and you're like, nope. Okay, let's start over. It's like trying to get a car to turn over. You're like, oh, no. Okay. Let's pump the gas a little bit. And let's see if we try it again. Tom Westerholm, always a pleasure to have you on, my friend.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. And I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who's listening, who's watching. That little brief interlude in the middle, if you're listening, hopefully I described it well. Maybe this is your opportunity to let's go check out the YouTube page. While you're there, subscribe. So those, I don't even want to use the word that I want to use. We just don't want Lockdown Rockets to catch Lockdown Celtics. This is just not what we want. So please subscribe to the show if you haven't subscribed on YouTube. Get into the comment section, share your thoughts, tell me what you're thinking about everything we just said. And then I would love it if you shared the podcast and tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Lockdown Celtics podcast here on the Lockdown Podcast Network. It's your team every day.